Good morning and welcome to this morning's meeting of the Shropshire County Pension Board. We've got apologies from Madeline Murphy. Also got to announce that Dave Wright, who's been a member of this board for some time, has unfortunately had to retire on health grounds. We've benefited enormously from Dave's long experience in the local government pension field, his knowledge, his experience and his commitment. So we wish Dave the very best. I'm delighted to say that we can welcome Paul Partridge from Shrewsbury College to be the new employer representative. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Paul. Okay, moving on.
Hi, Paul. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Welcome, Lou. Right. Do we have any declarations of conflicts of interest? I'll take that as a no. Okay, then. Moving on to minutes of the previous meeting. Have people had a chance to look at those?
Yes,
Good.
no comments from me.
No comments. No. The meeting was some months ago, so yeah. So people can note for me to sign those as a correct record of the meeting.
Yep.
Right. And no matters arising. There we go. Right. Public question time. We have received a question. Vicky Jenks will read it and Paul Chadderton will read the response.
Thank you, Chair. The question is received from Helen Sargent is, please can you advise whether any council managed funds, including local government pension scheme funds, are used to procure from or invest in companies that facilitate and enable Israelis' grave breaches of international law?
Thank you for the question. And the response from the Pension Fund is, the Shropshire County Pension Fund is a non-executive function of Shropshire Council, which delegates all decisions to the Pensions Committee in line with the Local Government Pension Scheme Regulations 2013. Whilst the Pensions Committee reports to Shropshire Council as the administering authority, decisions on the running of the pension fund are made by the committee. The Shropshire County Pension Fund has direct investments in some Israeli companies, though these are limited to banks and IT companies in the main. The exposure was approximately £5.5 million as at the 30th of June 2025. Last month, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign issued a legal notice to all councils in England and Wales overseeing a local government pension scheme fund. It outlines that councils must take steps to divest from companies enabling and profiting from Israel's genocide, military occupation and apartheid against Palestinians and the legal risks of not doing so. This includes arms companies supplying Israeli state with weapons which may be used to commit violations of international law. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign has identified £142 million of investments as supporting Israel, but these include a number of very large multinational firms, including such as Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Amazon, HSBC, and even McDonald's. Further details can be found in the public papers of the September 25 Pensions Committee at Paper 8 and Appendix D, which covers the fund's statement on how it invests in conflict-affected and high-risk areas. The fund believes all its investments to be undertaken in line with its fiduciary duty and in line with its statement on conflict-affected and high-risk areas. However, we remain cognizant of developments and are reviewing the position with both our pooling company LGPS Central and at a national level with the Scheme Advisory Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Right. Both the questions and the response will be available on the website after the meeting. So moving on to administration and regulatory updates from Vicky.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides you with an update of the work of the administration team and any regulatory updates that have happened since our last meeting. I haven't got anything that I need to kind of raise with you as any issues. If you've got any questions within of the information that's in the report, please ask. I think you can see from the activities, we've had quite a busy summer. We've been working on quite a few projects. So the annual benefit statement project, where individuals, active and deferred members, get statements telling them the current value of benefits that have to be submitted to them by the 31st of August. We were successful in supplying all of those statements out to those people that were due one. We've also been working on a preparation to connect to the pensions dashboard, so that work is progressing. Lots of technical aspects of that work have been done in the background with our software suppliers, so we are able to connect to the dashboard when it goes live to members. The work that we have to carry on doing for that now is obviously making sure that our data is as clean as possible. That is an ongoing job. That's not something that we're purely just doing for dashboard. It's something that we're doing all of the time. And looking at how work may be generated once dashboards goes live, and the intention from the government is that people are becoming more engaged with their pensions. So looking at how we can respond to any additional inquiries that we get once dashboard goes live. So we're looking at our work streams and how we can signpost people to information about their pension. We have received quite a few telephone calls and email inquiries that we're dealing with, so the stats are on there at 7.1. And then if we move down to the regulatory update, I'm just moving my report down, sorry. There's quite a bit of information in there about things that are happening from a government perspective. So we had the response to the inheritance tax consultation, where they were proposing that death benefits from pension schemes, from the local government pension scheme, would be included for inheritance tax. So that's changed slightly following the response to the consultation, and that's slightly changed where we might not have to get involved with paying tax over to HMRC. There's also information in there about the revival of the Pensions Commission. So again, that is obviously trying to get engagement with pensions and seeing how pension schemes are kind of delivering information to members to understand their benefits, and looking at kind of the cohorts and what is kind of happening with people and finances, so that they can plan better for retirement and have better access to information about pensions. There's information about the change to state pension age. So obviously there is a review going on to look at the change to state pension age. And also not included in this report, I just wanted to mention that at the Labour Party conference this last week, Steve Reid has announced that councillors are going to be given access to the local government pension scheme again. So they were admitted for a short period back in before 2008. They were then stopped access to LGPS, but they are bringing that back in for councillors. So we will have to look at providing information to councillor members on access to pension benefits in the future. So we expect a consultation to come out for that shortly, and then we will look to see when the implementation is of that and how we roll that out to councillors in the Shropshire area. Other than that, I haven't got anything else that I wanted to pick up on the report, so happy to take any questions.
Anyone got any questions or comments?
Yes, please. Can I just check, Vicky, on the KPI table in the Appendix A? And it looks like we're now only comparing performance against the statutory targets.
Yes, so the statutory targets have a longer time frame than our actual customer set targets. So the ones that the fund has set for itself, we're not kind of showing those at the moment because we're trying to review those to bring them to a more realistic target date. The date for achieving those KPIs set against our own customer targets are fairly short. So we do need to do some work on reviewing those, because if we're reviewing ourselves against that target at the moment, we don't look good because we're not achieving those targets, but they're unrealistic. They were set many years ago, when how we deal with work and the volume of work was very different. So that is something that we need to review. So they have been taken out, not kind of to hide anything. We are achieving 9 of the KPIs within the legal timeframes, and that's kind of the longest benchmark as it is. But what we do want to do is look at kind of setting some more realistic customer target timescales. So we are looking to review those at the moment.
Okay, because I'm just conscious these are quite, the legal targets are quite long, really, and not necessarily reflective of what kind of happens in wider industry.
So this isn't kind of our benchmark. What we don't, most cases are done well within the 2-month time frame. So yes, it is a longer time frame, but it shouldn't be that that's what we're aiming to do. It should be that we're working so that we get information out to members in a much quicker time period. But the difference between what our customer ones were and the legal timeframes, there was quite a big difference. So that's why we need to try and make our customer ones a bit more realistic. The 2-month time frame is the longest time we have to take to get information out, but in most cases information is sent out well within that 2-month time limit.
And do you know when you'll have completed that review of the specific KPIs?
We're just at the moment just reorganising how work is completed on the membership and benefits team. So where we have been working multifunctional, so we have a group of individuals that work on pensions officers that deal with deaths, retirements, transfers, divorces, a wide range of work. What we find with newer members of the team coming in, they struggle to kind of learn all of those things and maintain the workload. So we are splitting it into 2 different groups. So we have retirements and deaths and transfers and aggregations and anything that's not payment of a benefit as such to members. We're just gearing our workflow up so that it will allocate work differently. And once we've done that, I think that's where we'll need to look at, okay, now we've got the work being dealt with in a better way, what are going to be the realistic timescales that we can get information out by? What do we want to set as a realistic target for our teams? And looking at what we're already achieving. So if we're achieving it in 20 days, can we bring that down to 15? Is that realistic? So once we've got into kind of the swing of the new process of kind of how we work, we split work out. So at the moment, we're multifunctional, split by alpha split. So different members of the team will have different letters of the alphabet that they deal with. How we're changing that is we're going to split into skill sets, and we're also going to allocate work based on capacity. So if somebody's not in, it's not going to allocate work to that person. Whereas now, anyone who's got a task list and they're dealing with A to K, even if they're not in, work gets allocated to that list. So we're trying to split it out in a better kind of capacity way as well for the team, so that workloads are managed a bit more effectively, and that tasks. So we always know that we prioritise deaths and retirements. And what the team was saying was they enjoy working multifunctionally, but actually all they're mainly doing is deaths and retirements, and the other things are kind of slipping off, and that's where we can see on the KPI report. So we're trying to give that priority to all tasks, so that people are able to do 2 things 100% well, rather than trying to do 5 things at 80%. So that's where we're changing the work and how it's allocated, and then from there we can get a bit more of a realistic take on what our customer timescale should be, and set those so that we can then start reporting those to you.
And I know we've had sort of a few iterations of how these are presented, so I can't remember whether this is presented this way because it's new, but can we get a rolling 4 quarters so that we can see trends a bit easier rather than I don't know whether this is just because it's Q1.
Yeah, so at the end of the last, I'm just trying to think, so the last pension board was May, wasn't it? So you would have seen the whole year for last year, so you would have seen April to March, and then we just do Q1. So we're not kind of presenting it as a rolling quarter.
Right.
It is kind of at the end of March. The next meeting will show you like the full year, and then you can see.
Okay.
So
it's just quite hard to see sort of progress from last quarter because all of that's dropped off.
Yeah, so that is included on the May meeting information. So it would you could just refer back to that rather than us having to have that rolling quarter. So we're happy to take the comment on that.
Thank you. And sorry, I've just got a couple of other extra questions, if that's all right. So I think you mentioned that there were some breaches, I think, around deficit contributions.
Yes, so there was some late payments of deficit contributions, so they are recorded on the governance report, and that is where payroll providers have submitted a payment. So the 19th, depending on what day that falls, they might have submitted it and it's not hit the bank account on the 19th. It's hit a couple of days after. We don't have many issues where there's late payment, where it's weeks or months late. It's literally days, and most of the time it's purely around the timing of when the 19th hits and they've set their payment to go off. So we do remind employers that they must make sure the payment is there by the 19th. And generally, because of the values of these payments, it needs to be sat in their bank accounts as long as possible, and then get to us on the 19th. But sometimes the timing of that is just slightly off.
Okay, so we have made it clear to them that if it falls on a weekend, it should be the Friday.
Yes, yeah, that is communicated to employers. Yeah.
Amazing. And I just wanted to double check my understanding on the HMRC consultation on inheritance tax.
Yeah.
So is it lump sums and spouses' pensions?
So when you're talking about death grants, it's not spouses' pensions. Inheritance tax is not spouses' benefits, but it's lump sum death grants mainly. So money due to the estate where there's a balance of pension owed, or if it's a death in service, a death grant that's payable. So those values were looking to be included in inheritance tax. And we would have to look to pay the tax.
The fact that it's not going to apply to death in service, effectively, I assume there's not much that's paid to a deferred member in terms of any sort of death grant or anything.
No, so deferred members are entitled to their lump sum if they've got an automatic lump sum that's paid as a death grant. But for the main, these ones, depending on the value, shouldn't fall within the inheritance tax value. So even though it was suggesting that these pensions should be taken into account for inheritance tax, we weren't anticipating that lots of our members would be caught out by this. It is the bigger value lump sums that could have been affected by it. Okay,
fab. Thank you. I have got more questions, but I don't know whether anybody else wants to go.
If you have more questions, we'd like to hear them.
Can I just remind me, and I know I ask this every meeting, but what is the go live date of the dashboard?
So there's no official go live date. What they've talked about is October 26th.
Okay.
So what they need to happen by that date is that all UK pension schemes that need to are connected to the dashboard. So there is kind of a rolling programme depending on what type of scheme you are for when you need to connect. So public sector pension schemes needed to connect by 31st of October 25.
Okay.
So we have connected, and we are testing how our data transfers in a test environment to make sure that that works properly. But then there's a rolling time frame for other pension schemes to be connecting from I think it was from April this year. So what will happen is the government, once they know it's going to go live, will give us a 6-month notification to say, look, in 6 months' time, this is going to go live. And that's where we'll start kind of ramping up our communications to members so that they understand what the dashboard is to be used for. Because most of our active members are pretty engaged with their pension with us anyway. What we think it might start for us is that if they log on to the dashboard and they see their council pension, but then they're reminded about some other little pensions that they might have elsewhere, they might start asking questions to us about potentially transferring it in to the pension scheme, because they've forgotten about it and now they're reminded. So we've got to do some work on making sure members understand the rules of when they can and cannot transfer other benefits in from other schemes. So we're looking at maybe sometime the back end of next year. But that update is, I say, fairly flexible, because it will depend on all other pension schemes being able to connect. Okay,
so we're currently in the actual system, but in a test scenario.
Yes, yeah. So we've done our connection process. So we've done what we need to.
And the address tracing that you're doing, what's the timeline on that?
So we're just starting off the implementation of the address tracing tool. So that will connect into our Altair system. We will fire off information for members where we need addresses, and that will come back with information to tell us what our current address will be. So that's a pretty automated process. It can match on a high, medium or low level, and the high and medium ones can automatically update records and create an audit trail of where that information's come from. We haven't done that job for quite a while, so we anticipate on the first go of doing address tracing, we're going to have quite a lot of records updated, and then we're going to look to do it on an annual basis, so that we're doing that refresh every year to look at addresses. We are finding that obviously more people are using the Engage portal now online, so they're able to update their addresses themselves if they are regularly looking on the Engage system. It's more the ones where we've lost touch with them, so deferred members that have never registered for the online portal, where we've got them listed as gone away. Those are the people that we need to try and find, because if they go onto the dashboard and log in and put in details that don't match what we've got, then potentially that will come back to us as a query that we'll need to investigate and say, oh yeah, this is the same person. We know they've got a record with Shropshire. We can go back to them and tell them that, but we need them to update their address details. And that's why it wasn't 100% match when they looked on the dashboard.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. That's everything from me.
Thank you very much indeed. That was excellent. I've got a couple of points as well. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the communications and the dramatic fall off in reported visits to the website.
Yes.
Now, I can sort of understand why that's happened, but it does look as if better than 80% of people that in the past got onto the website just had a look and went away.
So I have a further explanation to that following a conversation with our IT web team. And so we're trying to understand the Google Analytics that tells us about how people visit our website and where they go and use information. Apparently a cookie setting has been changed so that if you land on the page and you don't click the cookie setting, you can be looking around that page, but it won't record it as a visit. So So that's why those numbers have dropped off significantly. So it's not probably an accurate reflection of people visiting the site. So we need, we're waiting to do some work with our ICT team on the Google Analytics to understand how we can use this data a bit better. Because it literally dropped off a cliff. It was like, oh right, okay, what's happened? Why aren't people using the website anymore? But we're not getting that feedback from members. You know, oh, I can't find anything on your website, so I'm coming to ask you a question. We are seeing more people using our contact us form, which is available on the website. So it kind of didn't tally. So yeah, after a conversation with the ICT team, this cookie setting has changed how visits are recorded. So if someone clicks the cookie, it will record it as a visit. If they don't, it won't. So
right.
So it's right.
Be interesting to see what happens now.
Yes, we get some more information about that.
I suppose the other point about those figures is that it's a pretty steady. I mean, I understand why we get more visits in April, because that's the time when rates change and blah blah blah. There's the stuff happening. It stays pretty busy in May and June.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that unusual, or is that the way things are?
No, that's just how it is. To be honest, it's fairly kind of you know, the numbers for each month. Through the summertime, it drops off a little bit. Obviously with holidays, but then through the summer we release annual benefit statements. So deferred benefit statements go out in July, and then the active ones go out in August. So we can see spikes at those points when we're sending information out to members. And what we try and do is plan it so that we've got it organised that the team can deal with any of those spikes coming in. But it is, you know, we've got a membership of 50,000, and you know, we have a lot of queries coming in daily on pensions, which is great because we want people to be engaged in pensions, but we need to make sure that our help desk can deal with all of the inquiries that are coming in, and that we can signpost people to kind of self-serve as much as possible as well. That's our aim. But yeah, a lot of the information. So the help desk is like the gatekeeper of queries coming into the fund. The rest of the teams, so the benefits and membership team and the systems team, aren't dealing with these day-to-day calls because they're having that time to focus on processing. But you know, they do deal with member inquiries as well that aren't captured through help desk, and the systems team deal with inquiries from employers that aren't captured by help desk. So this is purely just one aspect of information that's coming in and requests that come in from members.
Thank you. Also looking at My Pension online registrations, I mean, I'm looking at 4 sets of 3 grey bars.
Oh yes, you haven't got the colours.
Pretty much the same height.
They are, yes. Yeah, they're kind of standard at the moment, kind of just ticking along. Just there's a little bit of an increase each time. So pensioner members have the biggest uptake at the moment.
Yeah.
We're around 50-55% across the membership. Deferreds are the members that we need to kind of target the most, because they're the ones that are the ones that have kind of lost touch with us, and perhaps would be able to utilise information on the online portal a bit more. So we are trying to have a bit of a rollout programme to target those individuals that aren't registered, and also those that are registered but haven't used it for over 6 months, because we want people to kind of be looking at it quite a lot or more regularly, so that they can keep up to date with what's going on. And we're also going to try and send information to members via the portal rather than posting information out all the time, because obviously that's a cost saving for us, but it's also a more efficient way of getting information out to members. So we have got a programme. We've been trying to get that programme up and running, but unfortunately we've had some staffing issues on the communications and governance team, so we just had to kind of postpone that project. But we are picking that up again, and we're looking at how do we get people to register for the online portal. We're looking at like a kind of a member journey. So when they start, how do we make sure from the very start they're registering? And then as a separate side issue, just looking at those members that have obviously been in the scheme for a while, the deferred members that have been and gone, and how we get those to kind of use the system as well. So,
I mean, I'm looking at this and thinking it would be nice to know if these numbers are going up or down.
they're going up. So yeah, they are gradually going up. So they're steadily increasing. And each time we do an exercise where something's going out, so annual benefit statements, pensioners with the P60 information, we see another jump, another little increase of members going, because we always do a communication that says, did you know you can go on here and find out this information? And we get a bit of a increase, a spike of people logging on at that point as well, creating accounts.
Would it be worth letting us know what those numbers are, the actual numbers of new registrations?
Yes, we can do information on new registrations since the last time we reported. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions? No. Right. Pensions Committee reports and feedback. This is an opportunity for questions. I certainly attended the Pension Committee. It's a relatively new committee, and they seem to be settling down and finding out what it's all about, which is very encouraging. Does anyone have any particular things they want to bring up from the Pensions Committee?
Could I just pick one point up, if that's okay, as an officer? I know feedback that we've had from committee is about the length of reports and the length of the agenda in committee. It is quite a long agenda. So we are happy to kind of take comments on the reporting. We do try and, in the reports, give you the highlights that, the main things that we need you to know and understand about, without giving you rafts and rafts of detail, because, it's a long report to read as it is. So we do always consider what we're putting into these reports to make sure that, it gives you enough time to grasp the detail and have that chance to ask questions when you come into the meetings. So we are happy to always take feedback on that. But appreciate that from a committee perspective, there is a lot of information that we need to put into these reports at the moment, because there's so much going on.
But I think certainly from my perspective, I like the length of our reports. I think I have enough detail and enough information to get to the key points, but I can see that their pack is bigger than ours. And I think it's a really difficult one. And having been in your shoes, I know how hard it is to know how much to share and not to share, because ultimately they've got a decision to make and they need as much information to be able to make that. And it's really hard. And I suppose it's just making sure they've got enough time to read it. Are they getting the papers sufficiently in advance of the meeting to at least have a good go at it, bearing in mind, all the commitments that I'm sure they've got in their day jobs?
I suppose my feeling during that discussion was that if you didn't give the information, somebody would want it.
Yes.
So, what I tend to do is actually read the papers. And if there are particular bits that I'm particularly keen to find out more about, I will go into the appendix or try and find out what's going on there. I think trying to read and understand the entire pack is pretty much impossible as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure there are some people who do it, but particular bits of information will always be required. I think, they're lumbered.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. Okay. A lot of the pension committee reports are about the audit process. The pension fund is very closely audited, and the accounts which have come out look really quite encouraging. So the fund is doing well. Right. Any further points on that? Okay, date of next meeting. And the date we have is Friday the 23rd of January. And we shall look forward to seeing everybody again. Right. Right, this is the point where the meeting goes private, exclusion of press and public. And we resolve that in accordance with the provision of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, Section 5 of the Local Authorities, Executive Arrangements, Meetings and Access to Information England Regulations, and Paragraph 3 of the Council's Access to Information Rules, the press and public be excluded during consideration of the next items. Anybody moves that? Right, somebody twitched. Yeah. Okay, can we exclude press and public, please?